It's omnidirectional mic.
That's pretty good equipment.
You know, we need a lot of upgrades.
All right.
Those come
We're
slow.
live. Welcome
All right.
back, everyone, to the Splitting Hairs podcast. I'm Dirk. Of
course, I'm
we've got
Ray. And we have police chief of Hamlet, Dennis Brown, today.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I hope you were well.
We got last night.
Yeah, we needed that.
Ooh,
rain.
that was my.
We need that rain.
It was definitely getting rough out there.
All my grass at the hotel's dead.
If you didn't know, he runs a hotel over in Lauren.
8 years.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
So I was checking out your LinkedIn. It should be, is it not? My bad. I was checking out your LinkedIn. You've got it's pretty impressive little resume you got going there.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been blessed. It's my 29th year. So I've been able to see a lot of different things, meet a lot of new people, almost to the coast. So it's been a good journey.
I don't know. You probably couldn't have pried me out of the mountains if I got to live there. I love those mountains.
Well, it was nice, but the cost of living was so high and the quality of life was not what it was when we started. So it was a hard move, but it was a necessary move, I think.
No.
For the kids.
Yeah.
So now, were you always interested in criminal justice, or?
Oh no, Ray. I went to college to become a minister, and I did about a year and a half, and I thought I could do more good, and decided I could do more good through law enforcement, and I could make a one-on-one impact with more people that were in trouble, because typically when folks call law enforcement, it's the lowest point that they've been in a while.
Yeah.
So we can come in and really make a positive difference and turn folks' life around. And I've been lucky and blessed throughout my career to have done that. I saw it as a good way of helping a lot of people, and it's worked out pretty good so far.
Well, I can attest that you've helped Hamlet out a pretty good bit. When you first came in, it was quite a few problems starting to rear their heads around here.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had a good team. We got a really good department, and I remember one of my first council meetings. I was maybe first or second one. We're up there talking, and a gentleman steps up, comes to the mic, and noticeably upset. And he had told council that at night shootings, they were afraid somebody was going to get hit. And that really sunk in, because here you have a child who's growing up, who's forming memories they're going to have for the rest of their lives, and have to sleep on the floor because they're worried about stray bullets. So we really embarked on a good crime prevention through environmental design. We've embraced technology, and we've made a pretty good reduction in crime. I think from 2015 to 2025, the numbers I show, it's gone down 69%. So Hamlet's safer.
Yeah.
It's nicer. I mean, folks are walking on the streets. We have running clubs. We have, you don't have packs of wild dogs anymore. It's long. And I think a lot of the development that we're seeing and the growth that we're seeing, the police department's played some part in that. I'll be a part of that. But again, I just have really good staff, really smart, and they've made a positive impact. So one of the officers the other day, we were talking and said that children for the last 4 or 5 years have now had the benefit of peace to some degree, and you can't put a price tag on something like that.
Oh no. I remember when we first moved to Hamlet, we actually had to stop the fireworks because of gang activity in the area.
Really?
And yeah, we thought we made a big mistake moving and buying a house here in Hamlet, but and it didn't take too long, a couple years worth of hard work, and they got it pretty well under control. A lot better than it was.
Yeah. Did they do the fireworks?
Years ago, I know we went from about that time, we were the 5th most violent community in North Carolina. And now we're not in the top 50 or 60. So we've made up, and even though all people, Miss Pressler, she's our downtown coordinator. She does a great job.
Yes, she does.
She
That's hard work.
the event at the train station. She'll bring the kids out. They do. They have a water, food trucks. She has food trucks down at the city park. They have other stuff down there at the lake, and it's been a real good event for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's been positive.
And the whole point behind all that is they're trying to get more foot traffic in Hamlet.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a shame that it's trending back up and going the other way.
It is. I was this weekend we left in my son to the and it's 20 or so vendors out there. It's busy. Cars were parked at the senior center. They were parked in the parking lot. They were parked across the street. Really good to see. And we were talking, and we drove back, and we stopped at the Piggly Wiggly to get some bread and some stuff like that. And I said, you know, when I was your age, we'd become the traffic was terrible. 70s, right? 70s, early 80s. Traffic was terrible, and I said, but you know, we'd always hit the Piggly Wiggly because it was halfway. So we'd have to go into the pig. We'd have to buy some stuff. You know, everybody get a T-shirt. We're proud of that Piggly Wiggly bag. It hadn't made it up to Thomasville, but that's all that was at the beach. You know, Myrtle and North Myrtle were really, you know, a lot different back then. And you know, it was good to saw that traffic. And, you know, it was hustling Z-Tank. That always, all the roads lead to Hamlet for a reason. You know, it used to be the center for commerce and culture, and I think we're heading back down that direction. I'm happy to see that.
I hope so. I tell people all the time that come here for the first time, I said, look, this used to be the crown jewel of Richmond County.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where all the names were. This is where you wanted to go here to have a good time. It was family oriented. All these shops were still open when I was a kid. We had our own private beach back here.
You could go swimming, yeah.
Yep, Boyd Lake.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yep. That was a lot of fun. And you would always have the kids out there on their little floaties. They had a little wading pool. There was a huge diving platform.
Oh, yeah. It was fun.
And it's a shame to watch it all go down like that. And to see Hamlet Avenue in the shape that it's in right now, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's starting, like I said, it's trend. Like, you know, the folks are out there walking around, and there was gardens, and they'd be sitting on their porch and all that, which you just don't see like that anymore.
Is it the highway's fault?
No, look, so I have my own theory
coming through.
I have my own theory on how Hamlet got here. So essentially, there's nothing in Richmond County to offer somebody that's here. So now they own, you know, whatever. They're in Raleigh, they're in New York, they're wherever. And then their parents pass away. Oh, we're not moving back there. Let's just sell the house. We sell it quick so we don't have to worry about paying taxes. It's kind of how you end up where we're at.
I mean, there's nothing here, even Warrenburg. I moved back. I was in Raleigh for a while, and I moved back to Warrenburg. There's no jobs. There's nothing here. I know St. Andrews just closed, and it's really going to hurt Laurinburg. But what would hurt it even more is for a school to come in there. You know, like they talk about schools, about what we need is something from the future. We need a tech company. To come in and take over that campus, something that's going to generate jobs.
I think, you know, there are jobs here, there are manufacturing jobs, and there are some decent paying jobs. And my first job was My mom owned restaurants, so I understand Ray's life. But my first job out of that was Thomasville Furniture Industries, right? And it was, I think, $3.25 an hour. That was a lot of money back then. But communities you could feed manufacturing jobs, but you need the tech jobs. You need the innovative, the small business things that are going to attract folks to come in. We get manufacturing, but we don't have that diversification that are going to
What
attract
hurts
folks.
manufacturing is they don't hire directly out. They'll get these companies, right? Laurinburg had like Megaforce, you go there, apply. Well, they're going to charge that company $17 an hour. They're paying for regular employees, but then that company's going to take a piece of that, and they're going to pay you $10 to come do a job that you should be making $20 at. And they're sharks, man. They're out 5-6 of them in a town. Nobody's going to want to work at that factory for $10 an hour, $9 an hour, right? And then the only people that are going to work there or the people that wouldn't work anywhere else, right? They'll come in 2 months.
Trying to get a job, they're going to be the ones that are going to take this paycheck and they're going to go buy nothing but booze or drugs or something with it. And you're not here too, because they're going to be out enjoying their earnings, and it's just a constant revolving door. So now at this point, you can't really get somebody trained up to take this job. Behind the manpower jobs is you're getting these people in there, gets them into the door, but it's not a permanent thing. So we can bring you in and we can work you for a little while, see how you work out, and then we can hire you. And then of course they have to buy your contract from the labor force. So, but it doesn't ever work out that way. You just end up with a bunch of drunks, getting in there working enough to get their fix, and then they're out for the rest of the week. So, I mean, I guess it's better than them stealing, but it's not really.
You'll never attract talent like that.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's hard to find good people.
Well, you have to have that diversification, I think, and good education. That's important. And we're lucky when we have, our 2 elementary schools are very good. Our middle school is good. High school's improving. Great job. Our state scores are really high every year. So the foundation's there. We just have to attract those businesses.
My son goes to there, but I don't ever expect to see him living back here again once he goes to college. I'm pretty sure he's gone.
Well, that's a fear for me and my children. I mean, you really want them, because we moved here to retire, and because I love Hamlet growing up like you. And I'm concerned that hopefully that we can get to a place where there's something to draw them back other than their parents. There's activities. So I love, it's great pizza, great atmosphere. It's the only thing in Richmond County going like this.
Yeah.
Right. Where you can go see a comedian one night. You can play trivia the second night. You can do karaoke one night. You can see a band one night. And there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, appreciate it. We do. I mean, there's
tough.
nothing else
Restaurant
in
business
Richmond
is
County.
tough.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is, and some of the other places can try to get thrown about it. I try to stay out of all that. Let them do their drama stuff. I'm offering you guys, a nice spot now.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
People.
I said I'm not looking to compete. Let them compete with each other. I'm just going to do what I do here. It's a driving force. I will say that it is definitely a driving force, but
text from work from the other managers at the other hotels, and
That's got to be cutthroat.
it is, man, it is.
That's got to be.
And my numbers are the best, so I catch the most, right? Like if I'm off just a little bit. If I sell 44 instead of 50, I'm hearing about it for 3 days.
Yeah, you know. I said we just keep making our food, try to make the best food we possibly can and put it out.
It's good
That's
pizza.
about as much as I'm gonna go into
It's
competition.
good pizza.
Keep my recipes right.
Yeah,
So-
but we've been pretty lucky. You know, I've been fortunate enough to I think I've been certified in 4 states as a so early on, I met my wife, and she's one of those folks that say, "I want to visit all 50 states," and you know, pour it up. So yeah, I've been to South Carolina a couple times, but that was about the extent of it, going to the beach. And she took me to Missouri. That's where she's from, St. Louis. And we were sitting around one day, and I'm a chief. I give a county sheriff's department chief's job at Salem College. We'd planned a trip. She'd never been up. So she said, well, and I speak a little French. And I said, well, it's close enough to the French Canadian, Canada. Maybe I'll run into some folks. We went up there and absolutely fell in love. I mean, Maine was the most beautiful place I've ever been. And we set a goal for ourselves to move up there. And I was able to get a job in Vermont, which is a couple communities. After that, we moved to Maine, and we probably have stayed in Maine. But my mom got cancer, so we had to come back. But been pretty lucky to worked and met so many wonderful people along the way, and see how other communities have faced issues. I know when we were in Maine, it was a little bit like Hamlet. It was when they made bats shoes. That's where it started.
Mhm.
And the mill had left. Some investor had come in from China, down, laid hundreds of people off. And the mill built the town, and then they started making the shoes in China. And it was struggling, but you know, we had a really good city in, really good council, and they set up a TIF district, and they invested in the town. And it was during the recession, and now you go up there and they have big box, they have hotels, they have a lot of stuff going on. So it's possible. I know it's possible. I've seen it.
I fully believe that Hamlet can come back. I believe there's enough attraction here and enough history here that there's no reason we can't rebuild and bring it back to its former glory. I don't see any reason why not. So let me ask you: when you first decided you were going to become a police officer, how long did it take you from the entry of actually getting the job to make it up to chief? Because I see you've been chief of police departments for quite some time now.
About 18 years.
It took 18 years.
18 or 19 years. Yeah. Well, it was 96.
There we go.
There it is. I don't know what happened there. A little technical difficulty, folks.
Was able to get hired with Gifford County. Back then, you had to have a 4-year degree and 3 years of experience before they'd take the application. I only had a year, but they went ahead and I got hired. Really good opportunity at that time. It was an accredited agency. The sheriff had just come in, it's BJ Barnes, and he really put the citizens first. I worked patrol. I got assigned to 50B, which is a family service unit, which was really investigator. We had to deal a lot with domestic violence, certified domestic violence, and was lucky enough to have gotten promoted at a young age, as sergeant. I'd moved to SRO so I could go back to college and get my master's degree, and I got the first chief's job at Salem, and then took off from there. It was a lot different. Basic law enforcement was about 15, 16 weeks back then. Now it's almost 6 months. And you know, that's a challenge in itself. And what you saw then is a lot of the kids, I was in the old program. A lot of the kids that would fail would come back. And so there was a good surplus of officers, but then I read a study about a year or two ago where North Carolina, the sheriff's departments have grown dramatically in the last 20 years because they provide more services. A lot of people moved out of the cities. They've moved in the county.
Yeah.
They've taken on, the sexual registrant stuff, the pistol stuff. Courts have exploded. So they've grown, and what had happened is they've hired from municipalities to staff the ranks. Some of them have, and that's created agencies just can't. None of the agencies can keep up. So that's probably been the biggest change that I've seen. Is just how large agencies. 30 years. Some they all have. Yeah.
And you're
I do. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I've been a general instructor since 2006. Right. I was able to teach in Maine. I taught. Went to South Carolina. Wanted to be a beach cop. Who doesn't want to work at the beach? It's one of those things that everybody wants to do it till you do it.
right.
And now I don't even like going to the beach. It ruined that dream. I'm a mountain guy now.
Yep.
Yeah, I've taught there. I've taught at South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy as a guest speaker at the Citadel in Charleston. And I teach as a basic law enforcement director, which means I ran a police academy. And I was able to teach, and I teach now at Richmond. Teach constitutional law, arrest, search, and seizure, use of force, traffic stops, and civil process.
Okay. And so, other than the BLET, what are the other qualifications if you're wanting to become a police officer? Like, what else would they need to do?
Well,
to make
good.
that step?
It's to become a police officer now, you have to have a GED, high school diploma, no felonies, and really a desire to improve your community and want to make it better. I told the kids and students in this current class, several of the students were failing tests, but they'd switched over. We have a new program, and it's been a challenge for the students. And I told them, I said, are you helping each other help study? And they just looked at each other, and I said, well, everybody here wants to help in their community and help their brothers and sisters, but you can't even help each other. So let's start here. So going into the profession now, you've got to be willing to be uncomfortable in the fact that you've got to study a lot more. It's a lot more challenging. The expectations are higher because when I went through, we didn't know what de-escalation was. We didn't, it was just mental health was something we didn't deal with. I tell folks when I started, more folks were in facilities, and we dealt with very few mental health complaints as compared to we do now. Of course, crack had just started, so that's a whole dark age itself. But we weren't really trained to deal with mental health issues because we weren't exposed to it. Same thing with terrorism. The training they get now.
Oh, you guys train terrorism now?
They train terrorism. We train for. You've really got to want to be a student of your profession, and you've really got to understand that it's a lot of study. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So
I don't think that's true.
oh, it's true. It's true. If you work hard enough, I think you can accomplish it.
It's awfully heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I imagine, like you said, you see people at the worst time of their life.
Oh, it is.
That's a lot to carry around, and I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no I could see some of those things. And
It is. Everybody talks. I've done homicide. I did investigations for a while. I've done homicides. I said the most difficult ones. I was a child sexual assault. And, the things that up at the assembly 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, really we're trying to push laws that cut the retirement down for police officers because it's such a difficult job.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And our life expectancy, there's mixed studies out there. Some say it's 6 years, but I do know that life expectancy for police officers is much less than others. So we're trying to give them some time back. If they can leave early, retire early, because it's, you said, it's heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You see a lot of things. Someone who's victimized a 6-month-old child or something like that. It's hard to put someone in that place.
Especially when you guys sit there and talk to them like they're a human being.
That's exactly what I was about.
It's difficult. It's a difficult situation. It's a lot for somebody to carry, and so if we can get them out sooner, I think it's helpful. And there's a big push now for mental health treatment, something we never had. If you went to talk to a specialist or something, you would get fired and blackballed. You couldn't work in that. And now we really push our staff for the SWAT team at that point, those lines. And I sat down with him. I said, how do you deal with that? Right? Well, it's my job. And that was the attitude and mentality. And I started seeing my friends get involved. College, it's like, oh yeah, you're good. They send them back to work, and substance abuse started. The heavy drinking. I mean, the promiscuity started, and before you know it, they were out in the field, and it's a heartbreaking story. I worked with an American cop, just a great guy, fit college football player, very talented. Had taken he was on a had taken just saw him get like he was getting closer to an edge. And, one day he just slipped off the edge. And then, 6 years later, he gets caught for having methamphetamine on him. And then a year after that, he takes his own life. And, you look at it now and you say, what are the things we could have done to help him? Because he was crying out for help the whole time. And we considered strong to do that. Now we do a much better job of it. We've found that talking to a psychologist helps, but there's more benefit in peer talking to folks who've been there, who've gone through it.
Yeah.
We've done a much better job of getting our staff or offering the help to our folks, and we've seen a better improvement in their recovery times and how they respond. So that's been a really good benefit. It's one of the things we talked about with our legislators was what can we do to help make this job a little bit easier. So it's getting better.
Yeah.
Getting something better.
I mean, it takes a special person to put that shield on their chest for sure.
It is. It's not.
It's not.
Everybody.
It is definitely not for everybody. I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it. Like I
No,
think that
no,
I
no,
could.
no.
I mean, not that I would have any experience, but I think I could probably, with speaking and all that, be able to get through. Having to put somebody down. But I feel like I would lose it the first time I come in and saw the evidence of something that happened to a child or an elderly, somebody that I would more or less consider to be more innocent. I don't know that I could peel back off of that.
And then you just have those people. I love to watch body cam videos. Body cam videos are my favorite thing in the entire world. I don't know why, but I saw this one. This kid was driving drunk and he was speeding. He killed his best friend. Like his best friend was in the car, and then they're interviewing him after, and he's broken.
Yeah.
He's a broken human. He knows what he did. Like,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that?
I'm sure it.
Because some people just make mistakes.
Yeah.
Some people just this little mistake. I did this instead of this, and they just ruin their life.
Right.
And
And no doubt, as an officer, your heart's going out to this
Right,
kid. Like,
like-
that was terrible, but I'm sorry, you've got to go. Like, you have to go pay
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah,
you
you
know.
still have a job to do.
Yeah.
We tell special recruits, some people are meant to be the police, some people are meant to call the police. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it,
Yeah.
right? And it's that line where you've got to. I tell the story in class, and it's horrible. I've always been, right is right, rules are the rules, right? There's one way to do things, that's the right way. I'll never forget, I had in North Carolina, there's an eviction process. It starts with they call it a rent papers, magistrate summons. Well, anyway, it ends with what they call padlock, rid of real property, return the property back to the property owner. Well, at that time, I'd come in, and the agency I worked for would always give us like December the 24th, everybody'd leave at noon. I come in, but they call me to office. There's only a handful of that could serve these particular papers. I said, "Hey, we need you to serve this paper." I said, okay, it's Christmas, already out, no problem. Just got to go post it. I said, okay. I pull up, the landlord's waiting, and knock on the door, and it's supposed to be empty, right? So the landlord opens the door. Presents are around the tree. It's Christmas time. Well, the law says we have to take possession of that house, and they take everything out, right? So they had to move everything out, take the Christmas presents, throw the stuff on the side of the street, lock the house, and this is Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bad side of the job, right? And you talk to the landlord, say, "Hey, we can wait. We don't have to do this today." Nope, we're doing it today. I have this order from the judge. You have to enforce it. Being young, you'd wonder why they call me in to serve it, not the two guys that normally do it. God rest them, they're both deceased now. But that's the hard part of the job when everybody says, we get a lot of complaints about people filing at food line. Stores complain, folks complain. So we got there, we warn people. And people say, well, don't you have anything better to do? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We absolutely have 100 things more important to do. We have crime that we need to solve. There's things we need to be doing. However, this is something that our community has asked us to address. It's the law. We have to address it. So I think it's hard for people to have to be able to just kind of, and that's what makes the job difficult is, sometimes what's right it's difficult.
Sometimes you almost have to cut your humanity off
You
just to
do.
get through the day,
Mhm.
pick it up at the end of shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does sound like it'd be rough. One of our listeners would like to know, where are we crime stat wise before you and now?
Oh. Well, previous year, how we're tracking this year. So as you can see, if you look at the,
Yeah.
homicides are down. We hadn't had a homicide. We had one my first year. We hadn't had one since. Our sexual offenses are down, 80-some%. Arsons are down. Burglaries are down. Vehicle thefts are down.
And they're all down by some good looking numbers.
Significant number,
Yeah.
right? Our frauds are down 41%. Embezzlements are down. Drugs are down. Weapons are down. All total, it's a pretty good drop in crime.
Almost
in 10 years.
70%, just
Right.
short of just 70%.
So it's, at the end of the day, but to me, people can make numbers.
Yeah.
I
whatever
hate
they are.
numbers.
But at the end of the day, it's, I asked the listener, do you feel safer?
No.
Right? Do you feel safer? And that's what we try to do is the feeling, or people, do they feel safer? Do they feel like crime is down? Do they feel, comfortable going out at night doing the things that they want to do? And overall, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
People out running, they're walking, they're jogging, they're coming out to Hamlet. They're not worried about the things that we've had to worry about in the past. The gang stuff is way down. They've done a really good job getting a lot of that out of the city. We work very closely with our partners in the community to help identify issues. Technology, we've done massive investments in technology. Former councils and managers have been really good about investing in that. You see our cameras all over town. It's amazing how we have license plate reader cameras. We have the CCTV cameras. And we're using facial recognition. It's amazing how we can take a picture of a car, from one of our CCTs, run it through the LPR, and it will give us the car within nanoseconds. Right?
Almost
It'll
instantly.
show you the picture of the person driving it, the car, the everything. We can take pictures and run it through facial recognition, and at 80-some%, it's the person that, they identify to a certain 8% or something like that. So it's stuff like that we're doing. I never pass up an opportunity to hire really smart people. Sometimes really smart people, as you know, both of y'all have staff. That's probably the most difficult and the best part of our job is staff.
Yeah.
But, I never pass up the opportunity to hire very, very smart people, and they are very smart and they do very good work. And they're doing stuff that one of them wrote a warrant recently that had never been written before, right? So
I don't understand what that means.
well, I can't really go into it too much, but nobody had ever asked for this information before. Nobody had ever done a warrant like this before.
Okay.
So, it's pretty amazing work that they're doing, and it's any success that we have is solely owed to the men and women that work in the Hamlet Police Department. It's
On a personal note, I appreciate the professionalism, and the couple times that I've had to call for some incidents that's going on here, and they came in very calmly. You know what I mean? They didn't come in beating their
That's good to
chest,
hear.
shut
I'm
it
glad to
down.
hear that. Yeah, they are. You know, we have a very diverse department.
Mhm.
You know, we're almost at a point where we have a female officer on every shift, which is something that's really nice, and it helps de-escalate and it helps calm situations. So you know, we made a lot of headway. We've done a lot of good work.
Every one of the officers have taken time to get to me somewhat personally, share stories with me and be friendly.
Yeah, it's good
So
to hear.
I appreciate
Glad
that.
to hear that.
As
I hear
a
some of the
public.
other stuff, so that's good to hear.
Oh well, I don't get involved in those other things. I'm a pretty calm
Yeah.
guy.
Nobody likes to be stopped by the police, right? Not even me.
I've had some very bad experiences with this.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a lot of tattoos. Believe it or not, I've never been arrested. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I've never done anything. For example, one time my dad had a heart attack, right? He had heart surgery. And he wanted some biscuit gravy potato chips, right? At the time I had dreadlocks down to here. And so I went in about 6 stores looking for biscuit and gravy potato chips. I walk out of Food Line, I hear get on the effing ground. I got 6 cops around me, guns pointed to my head, my whole car. They thought they followed me for a good amount of time. This was in Raleigh, and because the way I looked, it was nothing but the way I looked. It was
Cocaine is a very
dude, I
specific
was
thing.
shaking and I was crying,
Yeah,
and
we can't do that. That's illegal.
Like-
They call profiling.
it was scary. It was very scary.
Well, I'm sorry that happened.
No.
And it happened to me. It's the police love. Like, me and my wife joke about it all the time. If we get pulled over and I'm not wearing long sleeves, I'm getting searched. I'm getting pulled out. If she's driving, she could have her gun sitting. I've never even held a gun. I'm afraid of them. Like, but it's the difference, and
Well, most of my cops have tattoos, so
it's a different world now
Yeah,
than it
it
was
is.
10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, it was every job I've ever had's made me wear long sleeves to the point where I still wear long sleeves even though I don't have to. Like, it's
yeah, you're right. They wouldn't even hire us if we had tattoos.
yeah.
Yeah, you could be a cop. In a lot of places, you couldn't be a cop with a tattoo. Yeah, it's come a long way.
No, well, so it's just something I've heard over the years is that it's usually like ex-criminals become the best police officers. I think it's more or less like the rumor. I don't know if I worded it quite right, but
Well-
what I was going to ask you is like, what do you feel like there's any truth in that?
I think I hope you have to you have to have the mindset of a criminal. A very good detective has to think like that, right? And that's how they stay sharp. Yeah, it's like I went to a training recently. It was it Frank Avondale, the Catch Me If You Can guy,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So he was a very successful forger, impersonator, and he got caught, went to prison, and now he works for the FBI.
Yeah.
Some other businesses, things like that. Really good training, really good guy. And I think it does help sometimes to have folks that can think, I guess, more like the folks that we would have to go after, because if it was rocket science, I would not that can holistically think about if this happened, to have folks with a different perspective, see things just differently.
Okay. I just wanted to get your view on that. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Well, I know some cops that are there.
Well, sure.
No,
I've
no,
known some police officers.
People that shouldn't be police officers, right? but they give them a chance. This was like what brotherhood,
It-
right?
it is,
So,
and-
like,
That's one of the things that, I refuse to have questionable cops, right? I never have. But I've seen a lot of it in this area, right? Where cops will get done at this agency for whatever. And they get hired at this, and they get hired at this, hired at this, hired at this one. And the reason why it happens is it's not that I think folks set out to hire someone, that may have done something questionable. I think it comes down to there's such a shortage of good quality good friend of mine, he's an executive director of Chiefs Association. Said, we've got to do better. We've got to raise our bar. We've got to, we've got to do things. We need to be the example for the United States. We don't need to, have lower standards. And I said, I agree. We are limited here in the simple fact that South Carolina, it's their officers typically tend to stay there, and they've come over. They have to go through a transition to compete with agencies that are around us. Where Union County pays unbelievably. Moore County is, it's a great community. Yeah, it's a great community. I mean, if people want to live there, it's growing dramatically. And even on the other side of Roberson, folks from Roberson County tend to stay in Roberson County. So for us, it's a challenge in this area that really you won't. That's the only reason why I would see those cops being moved from agency to agency. But we do things the right way here. If there's issues, we report them. And then if other places want to hire them, that's on them. That do things or done things. If somebody else wants to hire them, that's their choice. Buyer beware.
The same thing in every industry right now is trying to find that person, but the thing is, we don't get the good documentation of, what they did wrong at their last job.
Well, and we always don't get people to tell us.
we're not allowed.
Oh, and they can say, they just won't tell you this. They work from here to here, and this time.
Social media help. Because
If it's
And I-
public,
and I can tell most of the time whether or not I even want to talk to you.
No, I could go with my gut. I'll sit down. I'm going to have a conversation with you, and I'm going to bring you back another time. This is my general hiring process, and we're just going to talk. You know what I mean? And I'm going to try to feed you a little bit of something and see what you're going to tell me back. See if you can top my story and see where
Trust
you're
is
at.
a big thing in my industry because a lot of these employees are going into people's rooms with their belongings. Right. And you got to have somebody you can trust to go in those rooms because people get mad when their stuff is missing.
Understandably so.
Believe me.
Well, one thing that we're moving towards is, it's going to start polygraphing.
Yeah, they're going to. I thought they were like that sounded questionable. No.
No, it's some states require it. Vermont, Maine, they all require it. Most agents, a lot of the agents in South Carolina require it. So it's one thing that we're pushing. I'm pushing for here is to get us to a point where we can start polygraphing. I think that's a huge benefit. It's associated cost to it, but I think it's a good benefit.
We actually have it all the time at the hotel. Lawyers will rent the conference room just to
Come in and polygraph.
to come in and do polygraphs.
Now, how reliable is
Got
a
one this
polygraph,
week.
Well, I mean, it's really examiner, and you can't catch a habitual liar, right? But I've seen them used. They're pretty effective. And a lot of times, though, the worst part of it is somebody will come in and maybe they have done something as a juvenile. Well, they don't want to talk about it, or they're afraid to eliminate it. So they disclose it. Well, that will show deception. If they just told the truth, it may or may not, disqualify action. So they try to beat the test, and
Yeah.
that's what people do.
We'll see why you wouldn't tell the truth.
And you just, everybody has to grow up, and but they worry so much. At the end of the day, it's you just want people to be honest.
Mhm.
So it works out.
I think that's what we all want, that when we're trying to hire somebody,
Right.
but they want the job. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite moment since you've got into law enforcement?
Oh gosh. Well, I think one of the things I'm most proud of is that I've had, say, 6 to 8 off the top of my head, folks that I've worked with that have went on to be police chiefs all across the United States. I'm proud of that, I think, but probably I got a weird story for you if we got enough time.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Yes, we
But
do.
it's
We'll
about
go
10
as long-
minutes.
We'll go
Okay.
as long as you want.
Well, so I'm a chief in a community, and it's still an active case, so I can't give away too much information. And there was an unsolved homicide in the community. Really had not had, any homicides for years. It was upsetting. It was difficult, and it really rocked the core. Says, hey, chief, there's a person out here that says they have information on this homicide. Okay. Let them come in. I had that same response, right? That's my response. So I sat back in my chair and I said, okay. I remember looking up at the fluorescent lights. It's like, right? I don't need this. And the psychic says, it's from out of the state, from out of the area. And I've been getting visitations from this person. And they've told me about the crime. I was like, okay, well, anybody can. The internet was still, it's early 2000. The internet was still not as good as it is today. You can still research it. And the couple was there, and they start telling me about this crime, and the psychic's going through this notebook, this paper notebook, and they're can't, just telling everything that happened. I'm saying, well, I'm looking around for the cameras, right?
Right.
Somebody's looking at this point. Or Monty Hall, or somebody's coming out and going to make a joke out of it. Well, they give me just enough information that, how do they know that, right? That wasn't released to the public. They shouldn't know that. And they said, well, there's a cave. And if you go in the cave, you'll find the murder weapon. Okay. So, there's no caves. We don't know of any caves. There's no caves. So I had me and the lieutenant. We go back, and it was a river, a dam, I forget what it's called, gorge on each side, and there's no cave. So we start looking around. We get some ropes. We rappel down, and there's a cave. It's hidden behind a bunch of the trees and bushes and stuff. Small cave. And she had told me in the meeting. She says, it starts small but gets bigger. So we went back and we talked about it, and I said, well, because I was told that the gun is behind a rock beside a pillar that has an X on it, right? Roman numeral 10. And I said, okay. I said, well, the cave's here. I said, are you game? He's like, yeah, man, I'm game. Let's go. So we plan it. We go back. It's cold. We get warm weather gear, wet stuff. We rappel down, and sure enough, and I'm expediting because I know it's wrong time, but and we cut our lights on, and it's an earthen cave in there. But the building that was built on top of it had pillars that had been driven down. The person is up the gorge, back away, and to the side. Can't see what we're doing. Can't see what we're doing at all. We're inside the earth. And they have a walkie-talkie, and we have somebody on the top side telling us what the person's saying. And the psychic says, all right, you're close, take a right, take a right. So we take a right, we walk over, I hit my flashlight, there's a pillar with a Roman numerals on it. You're looking for it's buried there. It should be some loose rock and rubble, and sure enough, to the right is a rock appears to be loose and dirt. And about that time, all you can smell inside the cave is cigarette smell. Overpowering. And the lieutenant looks up and says, overpowering. And the woman comes on the radio and she said, he's with you now. And he was just a chain smoker, right? So the smoke's filling up the room. And I look over and the lieutenant is swimming as fast as he can to get out of there.
I'll bet I would have been.
Rocks and digging this stuff out. And I get back there, and somebody had put fresh concrete in things to do it. So I end up coming out and going up, and I end up telling the state police. They never went back and looked in that.
They didn't. Oh my God! Look, she was that right about all that stuff leading up to this point. Like, you would at least go look.
We ended up finding a laptop that a ton of stories. So maybe that's another podcast.
Absolutely,
Bunch of
we would
fun
love to
stories.
have you back
I'm
for
fully
sure.
convinced the son did it.
You're fully convinced.
Fully convinced.
Well, OJ?
Yeah. OJ said.
Well, that's
Gotta
actually a
watch.
really good
That's another
segue. That's a really good
podcast, right?
segue.
Netflix documentary. You gotta watch.
Yeah.
Before we do wrap this up, you gotta let us know, what is your favorite conspiracy theory? Not one that you necessarily believe, just what's your favorite conspiracy theory out there?
Oh. Well, it used to be the aliens, right? And my wife said, don't talk about the aliens, but, it's not really conspiracy anymore. Right?
Right.
Well, I mean, they've admitted to UFOs. I don't think they've actually admitted to aliens, have they?
No, they, I got some stories about that. Yeah, it's,
That's the stories I want to hear.
Yeah.
yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, it's, that's probably the one that's most prevalent out there is, I think, the aliens. But nothing in law enforcement.
I think I knew when Trump was in office. We need a space force. What did they tell him for him to be like, we should be able to fight up there? It
That's
was
what
just
we're
a little
doing.
lot later. Yeah, they're like, yeah,
I think it's
UFOs
more
are
of a
real.
spy agency than
They've
anything.
been here. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe it's more about the mining of the asteroids and stuff.
Stuff I'm like,
There it is.
So yeah,
All right.
stuff.
that's why I don't think we've been there.
You don't think we've been to the
I don't
moon?
think we've been there. So if
Okay.
we've been there, we'd go back and we'd completely destroy it.
But the thing is, that thing with the psychic, 100% real.
Yeah.
I could.
Oh, that's an amazing
If I was
story.
sitting at home, I'd be like, I'm telling you, somebody show up in your office and they're, because you can't read the writing, right? It's just, and they start talking, and they start writing. We're hanging in the earth. No one can see us. We're in a dark cave. And she's telling us to move left and
new. And my favorite movie's Into the Wild. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he's like, you're really into that. He's like, let me show you something. Dude goes in the house, comes back out, and he's got a picture of him and Christopher McCandless, the real Christopher McCandless. He's like, yeah, I don't freak me out.
I actually saw his campsite when I was in Glasgow.
Really?
Yeah.
Imagine.
This is the guy we were talking about last week. He's like got a Utah or something and just decided he was to the bus. And
Gotta watch the movie. Eddie Vedder does the soundtrack. The whole soundtrack is really.
it might have been the movie I saw. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
Yeah, I've always wanted to.
Yeah. Right outside, right before you get to Denali, or right outside the top.
Like it was a goal when I was younger. I was a pro wrestler, hurt my back and my neck.
So
I
you've been
wanted
to
do
Alaska,
that.
and you still say that
Trail.
Maine is
Oh,
the
gosh,
most
yes.
beautiful?
Oh, Ray, yeah, absolutely. We lived in. You had Tumbledown, and it was just breathtakingly beautiful. And you know, it was just, you can't describe it. Alaska is okay, but Maine is just gorgeous.
Well, I gotta go see. Okay, I've been to Washington State, and that's hands
It's
down the most
pretty.
beautiful state
Washington
I've ever
State's
been
pretty.
to.
I've been to about all the states now because of if I take my kids every summer, we hit like we do 6 or 7 states every summer. Like last year, we did Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, all of that, Iowa, Canada. We did a lot last year, but Maine is where we lived. Of course, the coast is beautiful too, but you know, you'd go out there and we'd have 30 wild turkeys go across our property. You have and moose. You know, I know y'all know, but moose are the size of vans.
Huge, yeah.
Right? And they're very aggressive, and they're not nice. And I remember I got up there. It was like, I mean, it was snow was that high, and I noticed this big open field in the middle of town, and cars were out there driving. They had like stop signs put up and little houses out there. So I pull up at the edge. I'm like, "What is this?" And they said, "That's the lake." You know, everybody's out there fishing, and they make a whole little village out there with stop signs. So I turn around. I'm going back through town, and there's this moose just walking up Main Street, right? Just looking at me. And it was, I'm telling you, this rack was probably as wide as 2 of those boards are, 2 of those sections right there. And I stared at it. It just walked over and just looked at me because his head was over the car. And I went back to the office. And I told my head, I said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, lucky you didn't charge the car because they're that aggressive, that mean."
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful.
What was that show? Northern Exposure.
It was
Yeah.
like
That
Northern
show.
Exposure, but it was walking down the street, right? But we'd open the windows, you'd have the mountains there, and turkey, and moose, and foxes, because I hadn't seen foxes since I was a kid. You know, you just don't see them anymore. Quail, and you know, the rivers were so full of fish. They had laws against it. You could just reach down and pick salmon up out of the rivers.
Yeah.
Because they were so prolific. The fish was. But the horseflies were the size of that Sprite can. There were negatives, right? And we had 18 feet of snow. So,
Wow.
yeah, but it was, that's good conversation. I loved it. Yeah. Alaska's good, but
All right. I've never been to Alaska.
yeah, it's worth it. You should go. We went my first time. We got to see grizzly bears. mountain goats, whatever they call them.
So the train ride to Washington, we come through the Idaho
that's
Panhandle,
what we want to do.
and it was a glacier park.
Yeah.
And the window, I'm seeing little ground squirrels run around and grizzly bears, a couple of them just walking right next to the tracks.
Oh, that's nice.
That was amazing.
That's
It truly
nice.
was.
Yeah, we did a train this last time. My mother-in-law, she took us, but we did the train this time, and it was beautiful. Alaska, the first time it rained the whole time, so, but this time it was literally so hot that we were all sunbathing on the deck, and it was 90 some degrees, miserably hot. But the sad part was we went to I can't remember what that glacier is. It's a huge glacier up there. Mendenhall? No, it's something else. But the first time we went up, which was about 15 years before that, it was huge. It was enormous. Right? And we were actually there, and the piece broke off. And we were so far away that the concussion of the noise, I'm surprised it didn't break the windows. And we went back this last time, and it was a third of what it was.
No.
It was gone. It was so sad.
So this is like, I've never heard of it. So I'm assuming that this is like an old glacier. It's been there
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
They have a great glacier thing they take up in there, and it was really sad because it was a third the size it was. And it was, but again, I mean, we were sunbathing on the deck in Alaska, so
Hopefully, we're taking steps to fix that now because they're gonna the woolly mammoth. That's what the woolly mammoth revival's about. Because you got those megafauna that would pack down the permafrost, and then it'd snow again, and you get more permafrost. But that's what the goal is. I think the end of next year is to release a bunch of woolly mammoths.
Well, they brought the dire wolf. Well, they brought back a version. 'Cause
Yeah, it's close. It's close, right?
what is it?
Well, no, because this is actually a wolf, and I believe
Tasmanian dog or something.
Yeah.
Trying to bring back.
The Tasmanian tiger.
Tiger.
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, it's a weird animal. It's
but the last one of those was in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Passed away.
Yeah, well, we killed those. Yeah.
But yeah, it's you should go. It's a good trip.
Yeah.
I tell everybody to go.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I guess I'm more interested in shooting up and seeing Maine.
Maine.
And go get me a lobster.
I'm telling you. Well, and that was the whole thing was we did we went up, we did the mountains, and we went to, I'm a Stephen King fan, right? So I had to go by his house. it's what you see on TV. And then we went all the way up the highway to get to Calais, which is right across. Calais is here and St. Stephen's is here. So the international border. Back then it was before 9/11, so you could just go over it. It's no big deal. And we drove all the way back down. So we did the entire state other than the Horn of Maine. And we just fell in love with it. And what was ironic was we were up there, gosh, I was there about 4.5 years. She was there about 5. And I would run into folks, ironically enough, from down here at the airport because everybody was coming up to visit. And I'd walk to the airport and I'd hear my name. It'd be somebody from, growing up or where I worked in the sheriff's office or something. So you should go. It's worth the trip. It's beautiful out there.
I really want to do
Campbell
the
Island.
Appalachian Trail.
A friend of mine just
Yeah.
retired, and he was going to do the Appalachian Trail. He didn't. The weather got really bad. He had to stop. But it starts there. I mean, up there,
Yeah.
it's not the trails that we have here. I mean, it's like goat paths. My father-in-law opened up for the first time, and he said, "We're not on the trail anymore." Yeah, we're on the trail because it's like this.
Big.
You're climbing up rocks to get to where you need to go. It's
Mm.
You've been hiking? Hiking, man. I love
it
it.
was because I gave my wife. We were hiking one time. She'll laugh at this. We were hiking, and this couple, and we were fit and pretty good shape, and we were going slow, and this other couple just blew by us. I said, "You can't let this happen. Come on." And she's like, "Well, we need to go slow. We need to take our time." I said, come on. I'm telling you, halfway up, I was grabbing my chest like Fred Sanford. I think I was having a heart attack. I was rolling around on the ground. I was like, "Okay, breathe." She goes, "Well, you need to get up to the top." So we made it up to the top, and up the top, it's a lake, Crater Lake, I guess, or some kind of lake. But there's a lake there, and you can swim. And there's an island in the middle of the lake, kind of like think of like Avalon or something.
Mhm.
King Arthur tale, but it's beautiful. You get up there and there's a whole lake and you swim over there. It's gorgeous.
Water had to be cold though, right? For sure.
I think the time I felt the most alive, me and my buddy were going up. We're about 2 miles from camp. Again, we're going up trails this big. Thunderstorm. Horrible thunderstorm. And talk about feeling alive when we got to the top, soaking wet, because you think you're going to die in those moments. That it was great. Like,
And you wonder how you're gonna get down.
yeah,
You get up there, you're like, because going down's worse than going up.
Yeah.
Because the rocks are slick and everything. But it was fun. Yeah, I got 100 of those stories. That's another time. It's good.
Yep. All right. Well, let me get you guys up on Caniac news. So we won the first round 2, and we're going to be playing the Capitals Tuesday at 7 p.m. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll definitely have it on up here at your Caniac station. Just wanted to throw that little announcement out there.
Well, guys, I appreciate it.
Yes,
No,
sir.
we thank you so much for coming out and doing this with us.
Happy to help.
You got
And,
anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Ray?
Just axe to grind. Great pizza, great atmosphere.
I appreciate
I
that.
bring my family here. So
Now we have our standard week this week. We've got trivia for Wednesday. We have karaoke Friday, and then we have a DJ this Saturday.
My band Echo 5 will be releasing our merch this week. We got a lot of swirl t-shirts. That's
I haven't installed that up. I
Yeah.
don't know what I was thinking. Finish yours. Finish
yeah,
yours.
but
I'll
we're
have
gonna have
backtrack.
squirrel t-shirts.
Squirrel t-shirts.
Yeah, they're already up in Amazon. I'll put a link up later.
All
I
right.
might throw a link up there, but I'll just show you a sneak peek.
While he's pulling this up, let me correct what I said earlier. We do have some Thursday. We have our going to be Thursday, and Friday we're going to have an all male review for the ladies that are going to be
The
here this
angry
Friday.
squirrel.
Sorry.
They're all angry squirrels.
So.
They're all angry squirrels.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
But we got like 8 different
Oh, wow.
designs,
You
8
do.
different squirrels. Like, I don't know how the squirrel became our mascot, but the squirrel's now our mascot, and we're accepting bookings.
Okay.
We'll be here
There
on
you
July
go.
4th.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Yes, you will. All right. I think that's pretty much everything we had to
Yeah.
talk about today.
oh, it's good.
Well, thank
Go
you
ahead.
for being on.
Yeah.
No,
That
thank
was
you
great.
guys for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to you coming back and telling us some more of those stories.
Yeah, I want to hear stories. I don't want to hear stats.
Yeah.
I wanna hear stories.
I know those. Hey, the stories are fun.
Right.
Yes, they are. All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching. Oh.